Alright, how's it going everyone? Gamma Fighter here, coming at you with another Sylvaneth video, and in this video we're going to be talking all about magnetizing your Kurnoth Hunters. So possibly my biggest and most ambitious video that I've ever done, maybe not in terms of length, but just because I'm going to try to go combine a PowerPoint presentation, some live video demonstrations together without any editing, because I do not know how to do that. So we're just going to do it live, we'll figure it out, and hopefully it all goes well. So if you're new, joining us for the first time, welcome to the War Grove. We talk about all things Sylvaneth as much as we can. Maybe someday we'll look at something else, but for now, it's Sylvaneth, the most beautiful faction in all of Age of Sigmar and all of miniature gaming. But going into it, let's take a look at the expectations, just to, set your expectations here. When I'm talking about magnetizing, we are going to be covering putting magnets into the arms of the Kurnoth Hunters so that you can run them either as scythes, swords, or bows with the same models, switch them out. We're not going to be talking about everything to do with magnets. We're not going to be magnetizing the bases or anything like that. So just the arms here. And this is great. It's a great option for a lot of people because it gives you a lot of flexibility. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but where you can switch up your army without having to buy a whole new kit, build it, and then paint it together. You can just switch it out with the arms. But there are quite a bit of challenges. It's not for everybody. And as I say here, it is best for experienced hobbyists. And if you are new to it, you're going to want to proceed with caution. It can still be a good option for you, but it is best for experienced hobbyists. It depends on your values and what you're willing to do to go through with it. I do recommend, and I'm going to probably bring this up way too many times this video, but I do recommend that if you buy your first box of Kurnoth Hunters, especially if you've never built anything before, but at least for your first box of Kurnoth Hunters, you should probably build that regular, glue the parts in, do one set, probably all bows if you're trying to fit in with the current meta, and you want something that's going to be good in the current meta. The bows is great. All the options are viable. This GHB season and everything like that, this edition. But the bows have been in a lot of favor because it's just very well placed in a current meta army for Sylvaneth. So bows is a very solid option. Build them that way. It also goes in the spearhead. If you got the spearhead and you're not sure if you want to magnetize the Kurnoth Hunters or not, if you're brand new to AOS, brand new to miniature gaming, you may want to just build them as the bows. That'll give you more options later on, and I'll talk about that more in just a little bit. But yeah, I've already talked too much. Let's move on to the next part. Okay, what's the good thing? Well, the whole point of it, we're trying to get the most that we can out of a single kit. It gives us flexibility so that you don't have to go, okay, well, I built these as bows, but I don't really like the bows in my army. I want to try the scythes or the swords. You don't have to commit to it. You can change it up, which is great. The other thing is that it lets you save, because the other way that you could try different options in your army is you could buy a brand new box of Kurnoth Hunters and build them as the bows this time, or the scythes this time, or the swords. So you can save a lot of money by doing it this way. You can max out at 4 kits. And basically, if you bought 4 boxes of Kurnoth Hunters, that would be like running 2 reinforced units in a single army. Sorry, I'm a little bit burpy here. Running 2 reinforced units in a single army. I really haven't seen people do that. I can imagine a world where I would do that. I really love the Kurnoth Hunters, especially right now in 4th edition. So I can imagine myself doing that, but that would be a little bit of overkill. I think realistically, most people are going to be able to be just fine with 2, and then maybe after a while you go, I'm kind of tired of playing it this way. I'll get a 3rd one and maybe run like an unreinforced unit or something like that at the most. So that's great, because then you don't have to buy 2 kits for each, the scythes, the swords, and the bows, and then maybe buy a 3rd one for each because maybe you want to run a 3rd one, a non-reinforced unit of bows with a reinforced unit of bows, and so on. So that's great. You can save a ton of money by doing it that way. All right, but it's not perfect, The models are not going to look exactly perfect up close. When you're really getting in there, they're not going to be perfect, okay? No matter how good you are at drilling these, unless you're like a engineer, micro engineer, and a perfect specialist at working with tools like down to the millimeter, it's going to be visible up close that you used magnets. Just because the way the things fit together, and the different parts, because you're using different parts, it's not going to be perfect every single time. And you might get one perfect, but maybe not the next one, that type of a thing. There's going to be maybe a little bit more of a gap than there should be, that type of a thing. So they won't look exactly perfect. The other thing is that for one box of models, it is going to take longer because you're going to be building the 3 weapon options, and you're going to be painting the 3 weapon options, and you're going to be doing some more gluing, some drilling, some magnets, that type of thing. It's going to take a bit more time, and that's another reason I say maybe build your first kit regularly, because it's going to be a little bit of a slog to get through, and maybe you might lose motivation halfway through when you've just got a bunch of pile of gray stuff and maybe you don't feel like drilling anymore. You're tired of drilling, So it's going to take more time up front, but of course overall it's going to save you time because you're not buying and building a whole other kit on top of that. Over time it's going to save you time, but for each individual kit, it's going to take quite a bit longer. And the other thing is it can be really, really easy to make mistakes. So you either need to commit to double and triple checking everything before you do anything, clearly labeling things, maybe making a spreadsheet or two, commit to really, really being careful and taking it slow. Or you have to just be okay with, hey, I made a mistake, and this unit of Kurnoth Hunters, they're magnetized, but I can't do the sides because the sides are on backwards, and the magnets don't stick, they repel, you can brick your model kit. So you do need to be either super careful, super thorough, or be able to accept that you made a mistake and now it's not going to work right, or it'll look really ugly, or you have to go in and drill it out or something like that. So so that's the thing. Now I want to lay out, this is in my opinion the most important slide of the whole thing. So if you're here for the key information, this is it. When you magnetize stuff, the real question is, how does everything fit together? And what am I going to be missing? What do I have enough of or too much that I can, share stuff, that type of a thing? Well, the good news is that Games Workshop gave us plenty of arms on these sprues. We have all the arms that we need, and there's not really shared parts between the arms. There's one instance that I'll talk about really shortly, but it doesn't make a big impact. But for the most part, we just have everything that we need when it comes to arms. Actually, the most limiting factor is shoulder pads. And so you need 17, but each box comes with 16. Now, I have seen people say you can magnetize one of the shoulder pads. Okay, you could. I'm not really into that, although it does make sense in some ways. I just don't, I know I'm going to lose it. That's what I'm trying to say. I would lose that shoulder pad 100% every single time. Like before I even played my first game with it, the shoulder pad would be missing. So I'm not going to do that. What you could do, there's a couple options we can talk about, but just a little bit of the math behind this. The reason you need 17, you may be thinking there's 3 Kurnoth Hunters and there's 3 weapon options for each. So that's 3 times 3 is 9. And then each arm each Kurnoth Hunter has 2 shoulders. So there are, you multiply that by 2, 9 times 2 is 18. You should need 18. Well, that's this one little thing here on the spreadsheet screenshot here. In yellow, I've got the bow arm, the right bow arm and the right scythe arm for the Hunter A. They share a shoulder pad because they share a shoulder. And this is the one part where the arm part is shared between the two. And it's the shoulder and upper arm is shared between the two, and then you connect it at the elbow. So you have to actually magnetize at the elbow for this one. I will be able to show you that. Do not worry about it. It seems fine. I actually didn't paint this one, but I did prime it. It seems okay, and it should be fine. It just has to be done if you're going to be magnetizing. But that's why you only need 17, because those two share one. You would normally need 18, and then you minus 1 because they share it, and so that's 17. And then each box has 16, which is really, really good. They do not show it. Well, actually, let's start from brass tacks here. I've labeled this here Huntmaster, Hunter A, and Hunter B. That's the name that they use in the instruction booklet, so that's the names I've used here for clarity. And in the leftmost column for each Kurnoth Hunter, I have the weapon. In the next column, I have left arm or right arm. And in the next column after that, I have the part number of the shoulder pad that it is on the sprue. So what part number it has on the sprue. And you will notice, if you know, if you're familiar with like Google Sheets, and I know Excel is pretty similar too, I've got a black triangle here in the upper right hand corner. And if you're familiar, you'll know that that means I have a note in that cell. If we were in Google Sheets here and I was hovering over this, it would show the note, and it would say for this left bow arm on the Huntmaster, it would say this goes on the arrow arm and it is completely uncontested. And that lets me know that, like, that's because I was being very thorough. I wanted to make sure I got it right and I didn't accidentally, double book one of these shoulder pads for which arm it's supposed to be on. So I went through and I double checked in the instruction booklet. Do I see the number 19 anywhere except for on the left arm for the Huntmaster's bow? If I see it anywhere else, I'm going to make a note of that. And if not, I'm going to make a note that this is completely uncontested and free to go. And yeah, that's what I did. I did that for all of these and just double checked that they didn't have any conflicts or anything like that. And yeah, so speaking of conflicts, this gets back to what I was getting at a little bit earlier. These orange ones are the ones where we do have a conflict. We see that the left sword arm on the Huntmaster and the left scythe arm on the Huntmaster, they both use shoulder pad number 23. And so that's a conflict there. We also have the left sword arm and left scythe arm on Hunter A and the left sword arm and the left scythe arm on Hunter B. These both have conflicts respectively. So the good news is it doesn't say in the instruction booklet, but I'm guessing they give you extra shoulder pads so that you can build the Huntmaster, which is the champion for the unit. They give you extra shoulder pads to build that one as a regular Kurnoth Hunter. Now, I don't know why he needs different shoulder pads. Maybe I'm not that into the lore about the shoulder pad lore. Maybe there's a book that's all about Kurnoth Hunter shoulder pads that explains what these things mean. But yeah, they give you different shoulder pads for building the Huntmaster as not a Huntmaster, which is awesome because you'll see there's 3 of these conflicts where there's contested shoulder pads, and you get 2 extra shoulder pads from the Huntmaster that if you built it as a regular Kurnoth Hunter. So that means you're actually only short by 1 shoulder pad that doesn't match, which is great. Once again, this is another reason that I recommend for your first box, just build it as a regular Kurnoth Hunter. Glue it, lock it in, pick your favorite. I pick swords, you can pick bows, whatever you want. If you do that, you will get 9 to 10 extra shoulder pads because you'll only use 6 of them, unless you do. Wait, no, that I almost said unless. Yeah, no, you only use 6 of them, and then the reason it's 9 to 10 is because this one on the Huntmaster's right bow arm, it's part of the arm already. It's molded into it on the sprue, so you can't use that on anyone else's arm because it's part of the arm already. You could technically, clip it off and sand it down and stuff, but it would not look right. So don't do that. But yeah, so if you do the shoulder, or if you do if you do your first box glued together as swords like I did, then you'll get 9 extra shoulder pads. If you do it as the bows, then you'll get 10 extra shoulder pads. So just another reason why for your first box you really should glue it together. Okay, moving forward here. On the right here, I have another screenshot from my very thorough spreadsheet here. This is all the part numbers that are shoulder pads. And so we can see here number 21 and 27. These are the extra ones I was talking about that are for if you built the Huntmaster as a regular Kurnoth Hunter. So those are free ones that they give you. The next column, I also put whether they were narrow or wide, basically big or small. If you're familiar with Kurnoth Hunters, you know how it goes. There are some of these shoulder pads that are quite a bit smaller, quite a bit more narrow, versus others that are bigger or wider. And I just wanted to document that so that I could tell, the ones I've highlighted in yellow here, these are the contested ones. And so, they're all wide. And so I wanted to make sure that these ones that I'm replacing them with, these are also wide, just so that it would match aesthetically. And so that's just for a reference as well. So this is maybe the second most important slide in the whole thing. And basically, I guess I kind of skipped over that on the last slide. On this one, though, it's got pretty much similar information. These white ones, and the white ones on the previous slide as well, you can just glue them where the instruction booklet tells you to glue them. There's no problem, there's no conflict, you don't have to make any decisions, just do what it says and you'll be fine, which is awesome. That's super easy. Super easy to do. These yellow ones on here, they were orange on the previous one. Let me go ahead and back. Yeah, the orange on the previous slide. Those are the ones that are contested, where you're going to decide whether you put that on the swords or on the sides. And then on these green ones on this slide, these are the extra ones. They're not even listed on the previous slide. These green ones are extras that you put on the other one. So if your yellow ones went on the sword arms, then these green ones will go on the scythe arms. And again, you'll be short by 1. So this is where you can poach it from a previous box, maybe from a friend who already built their Kurnoth Hunters, maybe already glued them and didn't use all the shoulder pads. You can grab them from them, anything like that. Maybe you can even buy them online. I didn't even look for that. Sorry, I probably should have, but yeah, you can grab them from somewhere else. Or you can choose an arm that will miss a shoulder pad and just have no shoulder pad on it. So some of these will look fine without a shoulder pad, and you might not even notice anyways, but you're going to need a little bit of surgery, so let's take a look at that here. But first, there's a problem where you could have mismatched shoulder pads and shoulders. So here we have a photo I took of a Kurnoth Hunter in process. I've got a little bit of a sticky note here I was using as a label in the picture to make sure I didn't forget what it was. But here on the shoulder, we have a sort of square-shaped divot that's been taken out. And so, of course, the shoulder pad that you're supposed to use has a square-shaped protrusion that fits right in there, and then it locks in exactly the angle you're supposed to have it at, and it's perfect. Well, we have a problem here because this is the shoulder pad that I used, and I glued it onto this arm shortly after this photo was taken, but this doesn't have a square-shaped protrusion. It has a T-shaped indentation, which is the opposite. And the issue with that is nothing. Actually, there's no problem whatsoever. I went ahead and I glued this right on top of there and just put it on in a way where it fit comfortably onto the thing without, like, the branches, like, smashing into each other or anything like that. Fit just fine. And this square thing was totally covered up. You couldn't see it. Even if you wanted to, if I told you you could examine my collection and try to find it, you wouldn't be able to tell which one it was. If you are really concerned about that, you could fill in this, take a bit of a sprue, and clip it off, fill it in there, and then, use some of the plastic cement to kind of melt it down. And then you could let it dry and then sort of, sand it down if you really wanted to be perfect under the shoulder pad, but the shoulder pad should cover it up. Now, maybe that's not the case in all cases. This is just one shoulder and one shoulder pad. So, do your research before you glue things together and make sure you're going to be happy with it. That's what I did here, and I kind of documented it here for you. This shouldn't be a problem. The only way I could see it a problem is if you had a protrusion on both sides. Then that could be a problem. But again, double check things. If you go by the spreadsheet screenshots that I show here, then there shouldn't be a conflict like that. It should be more like this one, but you don't have to follow the guide exactly, but these are things to be aware of. So, and the other issue I was talking about, that you could, what's it called? Just have an arm not have a shoulder pad on there. So these are already primed. This is from when I got too excited. I either got too excited and primed and forgot the shoulder pads, or I didn't want to deal with the shoulder pads. I wasn't done yet, and I was like, I'll just put them on later. So these don't have shoulder pads, even though they're primed. But if you're gonna do any modifications and stuff like that, you'd want to do it before you primed it, of course. So here we have some more square-shaped divots on the sides and on the swords here. And then on the bow arm, let me see. Oh, yeah, so I was going to talk about these divots if you were going to do no shoulder pad whatsoever. And in that case, you probably would want to fill in that gap. And probably the best way is going to, again, be using a bit of sprue and melting it down with some plastic cement and sanding it down. You can see these are meant to be covered up, like this part of the arm is meant to be covered with the shoulder pad anyway, so they do leave it pretty smooth. So that might look unnatural. I haven't done it myself, so I don't know. It may look unnatural on the Kurnoth Hunters that they have this kind of woody texture on it, and then it goes perfectly smooth. But consider how you're going to feel about it. The other example I gave here is the bow arms, and this is where we have the protrusion, the square-shaped protrusion coming out of these bow arms. These would be a lot easier to actually modify because you would just clip it down to be as flush as possible and then smooth it with a little sanding twig or something like that. And it would be pretty good, particularly this arm that would be holding the arrow or just let go of the arrow. This one is under the Kurnoth Hunters like hair branches when it's assembled, and so it like you wouldn't even see it like most of the time unless you were really trying to examine it. So this would be a really good candidate. The only issue is if we go back to the previous slide, well, I guess you can't see it on here, but these ones are narrow. The bow ones are narrow, and so if you use that to replace, and you take the one that would go on here and you put it on the sword arm that's supposed to have a wide shoulder pad, it might look a little bit funny and not be exactly right, but that's all right. Yeah, that should be fine. It's up to you. Again, things to consider, how you're going to do it, and yeah, some things to think about there. Okay, next, going into, we're going to talk about what you need. So this is getting back to a little bit more basic information here before you get started. So you're going to want magnets, of course, and the ones I got are on Amazon right now for $8 for 600. Seems like a pretty good deal to me, because you're not going to need you're not even going to need 100, believe it or not, per box. So you'll have plenty left over. You'll be able to magnetize for the rest of your life. And the size I recommend is, and remember, I'm just a guy on the internet, so you don't have to listen to me. Think about it and consider it, measure it yourself if you want to be absolutely sure that you'll be happy with it. But I found that 3mm is pretty good. You'll be able to see it in my Kurnoth Hunters in a little bit. But 3mm is not too big around, but it's big enough that it still has a good hold and a good connection there. And then 2mm thick. So that is 1mm is just too thin. I thought it would be good. I tried it out and it was not good. It doesn't have a very powerful magnet. And so 2mm, yeah, really, really powerful for how small these magnets are. You're also going to want a hand drill. It's also called a pin vise. The one I got on Amazon is currently available for $10, so that's a pretty good deal, but it didn't come with any drill bits. So if you get one that doesn't have drill bits, it might have come with some drill bits, but not the right size, because you're going to want a 3mm drill bit so that it matches the size of the magnet. So I bought extra drill bits. It was $6. Pretty good deal if you ask me. And then I put super glue on here because most people don't use super glue on their models unless they're doing something like adding magnets. Plastic cement's pretty much the go-to standard for like gluing together plastic models. So you may not already have super glue. So you will need it for the magnets because they will not stick from plastic cement. So this is an extra expense that you wouldn't normally have just for building models. But super glue is pretty cheap. I was able to find it at a local store, like a Walmart type of thing, for $4 or $5, depending on brand. So it's not free to magnetize, but this, altogether is less than the cost of a brand new box. It's about half the cost of a new box of Kurnoth Hunters. So even if you just gain one kit out of it, then you've made your money back. But obviously you can continue to use these materials for future projects as well. Tree lords and that type of a thing too. So optional tools, I do like having toothpicks around to be able to manipulate the super glue without getting my fingers sticky. Also, they're non-metallic. They're not magnetic, so they aren't going to be affected. So you can really like shove the magnets in and apply some pressure there without getting the glue all over your fingers, or without the magnets sticking to them and getting pulled out actually. So yeah, unlike something that might be magnetic, you might make a bit of a mess. You drill a hole, you fill it with the super glue, and then you shove a magnet in there. Some glue is going to spill out over the edges. You could clean that up with some paper towels, and just having things handy around. You probably should have anyways when you're hobbying. those are good options as well. And then masking tape or painter's tape or sticky notes, something like that, to help you stay organized, where you can, wrap it around a piece and then you can write, this is Hunter A's, left sword arm or something like that, just to keep you from getting confused. Now, I do recommend that you work on one model at a time when you're doing this magnetizing, so that just for that exact reason, so that you don't get confused and accidentally drill the hole in the wrong spot because you matched it up with the wrong Kurnoth Hunter, something like that. But it's still useful to have these tools around for labeling and organizing, just in case. So yeah, any kind of organizing drawer or anything like that too. This masking tape is sort of a catch-all for that idea as well. And yeah, it's the same way, the plastic cement, that's a catch-all for just kind of the normal stuff that you would have for hobby. You're going to need nippers because you're like clipping stuff off the sprue and then you're gluing it together and that type of thing too. So yeah, so moving on, let's take a look at drilling a little bit. So this is the part where we're going to actually switch to the live view. I'm going to switch over here and let's see. That's right, using photo booth here. And here I am in the flesh. It's the Gamma Fighter. So we're going to look a little bit at drilling. So this is getting a little bit basic, but being able to show you just a bit of how it works. So here's my drill, and yeah, this is the one I told you about. And here's the little drill bit. We're going to be drilling a pilot hole, but first, you do want to make sure you line everything up. So what I like to do, and I'm not sure that this is the perfect way to do it, I like to drill the hole on the body first and sort of center the magnet in the arm socket because it's round, and then to have like sort of a round little, well, round-ish, to have the magnet centered there, that's going to determine where you put the other magnets as well. And then for the other magnets, what you can do, or for the other arms, let me see if I have one that hasn't been drilled yet. I don't. What you can do is you can put a little spot of paint on there, maybe something that'll stand out like black or, green or yellow or something like that, something that will really stand out. You put it on there and then you fit the arm into the hole, into the socket. And when you pull that out, then it'll have paint on it, and you'll be able to see exactly where you should be drilling that hole. So try and get the like a dot of paint right on the very center of the magnet, as close to the center as possible, and then that will show you where you can drill your pilot hole. And speaking of pilot holes, we can talk about how you can do that. So what I do is I'll hold on to there's a like a free spinning like hex nut thing on the back here, and I like to put that in my palm, and I'll just hold on to that, and I'll be able to apply pressure through that to the rest of it, and then the rest of the drill spins together. Once it's all tightened down and everything, it all spins together. So you can see that all culminating here. Oh my goodness, it is. The screen does not know that I'm recording, so it went dark. I hope it didn't go dark for you guys. All right, so here, so what we do is we're applying pressure with this palm of my hand, the drill palm. I'm applying pressure to kind of hold the drill in there, and then I'm holding the other hand to hold the piece steady. Now, normally I'd be holding it, quite a bit more tighter and centralized, but I want to make sure that you guys are able to see this. You can see there's a little scratch on my hand. This was from take one. Like I said, I'm doing this in one take without editing, so I made a mistake and I had to redo this. I tried to push really hard to show you why that's a bad idea, and then it happened. I actually scraped my hand and I realized, no, that's why you don't do that. So we just put the pressure there. Again, the hand that's holding the plastic piece, I would normally be holding it much closer to the plastic where we're drilling, but this is for demonstration purposes. I'm just applying a light pressure, and then I am just kind of increasing that pressure as I'm turning. Again, holding the hex nut part still, and then rotating the whole rest of the drill. And you probably can see that there's little spirals of plastic coming out. That's exactly what you want when you're using this very small drill bit that's drilling us a pilot hole, and that is a bit off center. That's because I was doing it wrong, so that I could show you guys. This is not going to matter because it's not actually this is just a bit of the sprue, this is not actually going on anything. So that's just for demonstration. Now I'm going to switch out the bit here to the real bit, the 3mm bit that I use. Just as easy as that. Yeah, the drill has a little holdy thingy. The the 3mm one is like the really big side, and then the small little tiny one is it's much smaller, and it grips it much tighter. So I flipped that around, as you saw there. So let me just check my notes here. I'm gonna okay. Yeah, there we go. So now we're going to be even a little bit more gentle when we're using the bigger bit. And this is like way too off center, so it's not going to work. Because if you apply too much pressure, one thing you can do, you can scratch yourself, which I did earlier. Okay, well, yeah, I did the pilot hole way too off center. But the other thing is that if you apply too much pressure, the drill bit is quite sharp, and it'll actually start to gouge the plastic rather than drill. And then it's like, if it's gouging and you apply too much pressure, it's going to start tearing. And what you want is these kinds of spirals and ribbons of the plastic coming off just a little bit at a time. And so just use like a light pressure, and if nothing's happening, just ramp up the pressure a little bit. Sometimes you do actually end up using quite a bit of pressure, but you want to start with a little bit at a time. And sometimes you will find that as you're going a little bit, it'll catch something, and just the way the plastic is holding will catch, and it'll start tearing into it, and that's not what you want. It's really uncontrolled, and it can just cause more problems. So start with a light pressure, and increase it a little bit until you're at a satisfactory amount that's coming off. The other thing is, you don't want to go too deep, because some of these parts are pretty shallow. Oh, I do have a part that's not drilled yet. Oh, this is the part where this is the bow arm, where the shoulder pad's built into it. It's molded into it. So, but some of these parts are quite small. This forearm of the scythe here, it's really shallow. It's not very thick at all. So it's really easy, if you are applying too much pressure, it's easy to go too far and drill through. Now, if that does happen, you can patch it with a little bit of sprue goo. And if you don't have any sprue goo is just plastic from the sprues mixed with some plastic cement, so that it forms into like a paste that's sort of made out of the sprue. And if you don't have that already, these shavings from the drilling actually work really great, because they dissolve super fast because they're so thin. So what you can do is sort of lay some of that over there and apply a little bit of the plastic cement. It'll like melt down like really easily. Can you tell I did this? It'll melt down super easily, and then for me, actually, it looked really good already. Like, I didn't need to sand it or anything, but you may need to sand it. You may need to add like another little bit of the plastic shavings, and then a little bit more of the plastic cement, and melt it down and manipulate it a little bit. But for me, it looked really good. I just went a little bit too far. I had a little crack where you could see the magnet through, and I just put that right over top, and it looks great. But those are things that you need to be careful about. All right. That's it there. That's it for drilling. Yeah. So next is about gluing in the magnets. So as I said before, if you get the polarity wrong, you will brick your hunter. It'll be bricked, like a phone that doesn't work, or an account in a game that you messed up, and that type of thing. So the thing about this, this is where you want to take it slow. Like I said, it's really easy to make a mistake. Especially like this is sort of like spatial reasoning. So if that's not your strong suit, then you just want to take it slow, maybe make a diagram, that type of a thing. There is a trick to make it fairly easy, but yeah, just take it easy if this isn't your strong suit. So you don't have to have all of your Kurnoth Hunters have all of their magnets aligned the same way with each other. Unless you really want to be able to interchange in between the different sets. Like if you buy one box, you want to be able to switch the arms from the Huntmaster, from box number 1, you want to be able to switch that to the Huntmaster in box number 2. Then you do have to be more careful and stuff, but within the box, their arms aren't designed to really fit with each other, so you don't have to be so careful about the polarity being exactly the same, if that makes sense. But when it comes to the arms on each individual model, you do need to have the weapons for that model aligned to the Kurnoth Hunter. Otherwise, the magnets will repel each other, and when you try to put the scythe arms on, the magnets will not stick, they will push apart instead, and so that's not what you want. So the steps to that, I probably should have gotten some out. Let's do this, yeah. Here's my little box of my 600, now 575 or whatever magnets. This is as small as they are in person. They're very small. I don't have huge hands. They're super tiny when you're talking about a couple millimeters here. And I put the Kurnoth Hunter here. So one of the sort of quote-unquote foolproof ways of being able to get the magnets aligned correctly is that, I turned off the light, sorry. You can put the magnet onto the body, and then you can take the arm where you've already drilled the hole, and I haven't done this here. You can put the super glue in the arm, and then you can fit the arm onto the model with the magnet going into the hole, and then you can slide it off, and then that way you'll break the connection between the magnets, and the magnet will stay in the new arm that you just put the glue in and drilled the hole in. And it'll automatically be aligned because when you bring the magnet near to the body that already has a magnet in it, it will automatically align. So that's the quote-unquote foolproof way of doing that. Another thing is I've seen people do, like big stick figure arms. Like this, and then you can just put the arm on the end here. So that is one way to do it. Obviously, this is a little bit long, so that could actually make it a little bit harder to do. But another trick you can do is you can take a little piece of paper, a little napkin, or sticky note here in this case. You can put that in between the magnets, and if you got the 3mm round and 2mm thick magnets, the magnets should still attract each other through the paper and kind of push that in. But then this time when you bring the arm in with the super glue, it's a lot easier to pull the magnet away from the body, from the other magnet, because the attraction through the paper is just a little bit weaker. So that's one little trick that you can do to make it a little bit easier there. And let's see. So, okay, I went over those steps, put the glue in the hole that's drilled in the arm, put the arm on the body as if you were attaching it to the side, and then you slide it off so that the magnets separate, you break that connection, and then the new magnet that you just attached sticks into the arm, and then you can use the little piece of paper to make that easier. And then, I already talked about that, but yeah, you can patch up mistakes using sprue glue or a little bit of the plastic shavings there. Okay, moving on. There is a question of whether you're going to want to glue your arms together or not, and I'll be able to show you what I mean by that. So here I've got an example when it comes back. Yeah, I've got an example. So I painted the Kurnoth Hunter. Actually, I didn't put this in my notes. You should paint everything together. I was super excited. I wanted to try this new color on the these leafy growth things. I wanted to try a different color on that, so I rushed it. And that's probably why I forgot to put the shoulder pads on these arms too. But you should paint these together. So paint all the arms for Kurnoth Hunter and the body for that Kurnoth Hunter at the same time. That way you're going to get the same consistency between the paint coverage, the dry brushing, all that kind of stuff. Now, when I do when I paint these arms, I'm going to have to make sure that the amount of dry brushing I've applied is going to be consistent for the arms, all the arms, across the arms, but then also for the body too, because I don't want the arms to be mismatched from the body. But this is an example where the scythe hand or arm, it glues together. You know, I forget, I did this one a while ago. I forget if it's this left arm that glues together down here at this wrist. Probably. It could also be this right arm up at this wrist at the top here. They need to be glued together, and I went ahead and opted to do that. But as you can see, it's a little bit tighter trying to get it back onto the model and then taking it off again. It's a little bit tighter, and you know, it's a little bit harder to get the shoulder like lined up to being in there, so that it sits perfectly flush. So but the good side is that at the hand it looks perfect. It looks like, you know, like it's supposed to be that way. So there's, you know, pros and cons to it. I've got another set where this is the let me see. Oh yeah. Here's a good example. I'll do so I think that was Kurnoth Hunter B. Yeah, and this one is Kurnoth Hunter A. And his, I did actually I tried like 2 or 3 times to glue his hand on, but it didn't stick. It's just a weird angle, and getting the angle of the shoulder and the angle of the wrist together and everything, I just wasn't having it. Maybe I just did the magnets not ideal. So these aren't glued right now. So the plus side is it's super easy to take on and off, but the downside is now I have to keep track of two pieces for the sword, whereas on the other model I only have to keep track of one because they're glued together already. The other thing is it might not always perfectly line up. So this wrist might end up, you know, dropping down when I'm playing with it, and the hand is just disconnected from the body, you know, and there's always the chance that, you know, you lose the arm or something like that. So there are downsides. You're going to have to make that choice. I may try again and glue this together with some super glue now that the paint's on there already. But that's kind of the trade-off that you have to make, the decision that you're going to have to make for yourself. Let me see if nope, that's all, yeah. So that's all for that. Okay. Now, let me get back to my notes here. All right, that should be it. As far as I know, I'm going to just double check my notes here. I got the thanks for watching here now. Yeah, so when the arms connect at the wrist, if you have that choice to be able to glue them together or not. Yeah, I mean, that's all that I got. Let me know if I missed anything. If you have any questions and I'm still alive and paying attention to this YouTube channel, I'll be able to answer your questions. And let me know if there are any tips that you guys have, or anything that I left off, or any other ideas that you guys have, or your experience with magnetizing your Kurnoth Hunters, and how it's been for you. Or if maybe you haven't decided it or not. Yeah, let me know in the comments section down below. Really appreciate you guys watching this. You guys know I do this because it's fun to talk about Sylvaneth, and it's just really exciting that people actually want to listen to what I have to say. So I do appreciate all the kind comments that you guys leave, and hope to bring you guys lots of more great Sylvaneth content in the future. But that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.